So friends, I'm very excited to introduce the second presenter in this Tantra Talk series, Dasha Boyasa. Just found out what her last name is. It means barefoot. That's kind of tantric. I think you should just call yourself Dasha Barefoot. Right? That'd be a unique name to have.
That's her spiritual name.
It's your spiritual name, Dasha Barefoot. I'm going to call you that.
That's my last name. That's my family name.
So it is your spiritual name.
Yeah, so I'm going to hand over this spot here to Dasha to enlighten us with her presentation.
Okay. So, this is my first attempt to structure my stream of consciousness around this topic, so bear with me. I try to structure it to the best of my ability, but sometimes it would feel like a stream of consciousness. But basically, what inspired me to do the talk is that, Tantra and everything to do with sex and relationships is a big interest of mine and has been fascinating me through theoretical readings as well as lived experience. I'm also training as a psychosexual therapist, and that kind of went parallel with our studies with Jesse in Tantra. And interestingly enough, I was seeing a lot of points of connection, and hence my talk today. So I think the intention for my little talk is to kind of show the day-to-day application of Tantra, because oftentimes when we talk about the spiritual, and especially, like, yes, Tantra is somewhat controversial, so if you don't go into the black Tantra, if you talk about Tantra as a spiritual teaching, it can be really heady. Like, we tried so many different practices over the course of these 3 semesters, and I spoke with a lot of my fellow classmates, and then we're like, yeah, there are so many practices, how do I choose one? And sometimes it may feel too esoteric. So I think what I wanted to do here is to show how it does not have to be too esoteric to be present in the daily life. So the 4 core themes that I looked at was obviously the polarity and duality of Shiva and Shakti within the couple and within ourselves. The idea of worshipping each other and the idea of worshipping lingam, worshipping yoni, from a place of divinity, because the whole word worshipping is very, in our society, there is a lot of burden with that word. The transcendental nature of sexual experience, and the grand idea of expansion through liberation and liberation through expansion. And I think I wanted to quote yes. We live in a world of duality. The structure of every life form, the processes of mind and body, all have their male and female aspects, opposite and complementary. This is the divine play. The parts dance with each other and act out the drama of incompleteness seeking completion. This polarity sets up a tremendous cosmic force, but duality is the source of all suffering, as the sense of incompleteness is very painful. Tantra is the interweaving of the male and female, the positive and negative energies, to return to the cosmic unity vibrating as one. So this whole idea of polarity, my big problem with society as it is right now is that it's very polarized, and it tends to polarizing everything. And it's understandable. It's easy for people, well, our mind is very lazy, so it's very easy to think in black and white. good or bad, male, female. But the problem with the duality is that duality makes us fragmented. And fragmented is the opposite of whole. And with all spiritual practice, we strive towards wholeness. So the problem, why is duality fragmented? If we look at how we are supposed to be in the society, the duality of male and female, it seems to be natural, like for a woman it's natural to be feminine, for a male it's natural to be masculine, but in fact these roles as they are, they really restrict the whole range or the fluidity of manifestation or expression. So traditionally, if I am a woman, anything that would move me into more masculine manifestation is somewhat odd. And even worse for men, if you're a man and if you, God forbid, want to express some emotions, it's also kind of like vulnerable, to say the least, shameful. But the problem is, we as cosmic beings possess both. So if we are being polarized into feminine or masculine, that means we are putting down a big part of us that is divinely there. When in fact, the movement between masculine and feminine energy, between Shiva and Shakti, already exists. And if we look at a healthy relationship, this shift happens all the time. Yes, the cohesion of the relationship is based on one partner being more in their Shiva energy and another being in their Shakti energy, and this completes the union. But throughout the time, everyone shifts within themselves between Shiva and Shakti. So if we are talking about more like very daily based situation, if you're a woman, you have an idea, you're taking lead, you're taking initiative, and that can be very rational. I myself can say that I am oftentimes very rational and very like risk taking, so I can be very masculine. That doesn't take away my femininity. It just means that for this point in time, I'm shifting temporarily from my Shakti energy into my Shiva energy. Same with men. Sometimes they just need like time off. Sometimes they are emotional. I see a lot of really beautiful male expression of their love towards and tenderness and care towards their kids, and that's, in a very dualistic society, can be viewed as feminine, but there's nothing wrong with it. Yes.
I want to ask the question, like, what is the basis that's underneath this polarity, and who's making the choice to be more masculine one day, more feminine the other? Like, what part is underneath all of that?
Well, it seems to me that, well, by default, this is how we're socialized. However, I find the key is in the awareness, because it's even me, once I started including through the Tantra practice, once I started being more aware of the shift of energies, I also started being more aware of the shift of energies in relationships. So sometimes, especially when being in a relationship with men, and men being vulnerable, and vulnerable not necessarily, well, sometimes it would be a point of weakness, sometimes it would be a point of openness, like heart openness, and it really felt like when he is in a place of vulnerability, I'm there in a place of holding space for his vulnerability. And sometimes it's me taking lead to take care, and that felt more in a masculine energy in terms of protector, the stronger one for this moment in time. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, it's a bit of a rhetorical question that there's some other component that's making a choice
Yes.
to go somewhere at these poles. There's a transcendental part that's like going, okay, I'll be more the masculine energy at this time and hold space. So there must be something that's beyond gender
For sure.
that's making these choices.
And also this brings us back to the idea of wholeness, right? Because if you're whole, there are both parts. So if we move away a little bit from the Tantra and talk about the psychology of desire, the erotic desire thrives when there is space. So oftentimes the problems of couples are that like they're so fused together that there is no space for passion, and passion needs space. Going back to the idea of duality, the duality that relationships often face, the conflict, the dualistic conflict, is that of intimacy, wanting, or togetherness, wanting to be together because this creates safety and we want to feel safe in the relationship. But the flip coin, the flip of the coin of the togetherness is autonomy, and we are all naturally want to be the autonomous self, because autonomous self is a whole self. You don't dissolve. So and oftentimes people dissolve in the relationship when there is too much togetherness, and this kills intimacy. The psychological solution to it oftentimes is the idea of differentiation. Differentiation is the capacity to hold on to yourself in the presence of another, and this brings us back to spiritual teachings of holding on to your own center and feeling whole, because we by default in relationships we oscillate between being fused together, and then we feel that this fusion threatens our wholeness, and so we run away, and that causes the dysfunction in the relationship. Whereas it comes down to, if you're really whole and integrated and you hold on to your center, the intimacy of relationship won't be such a threat to you, because you know you can hold your center, and that enables you not only to be present but also being vulnerable, because if you know that you are whole, that you won't dissolve, that you won't go back to being fragmented, you can open up, you can be vulnerable, you can be present fully in a relationship without being dissolved or feeling dissolved. And hence I really like this idea of healthy dominance and powerful surrender. And obviously if you think in terms of Shiva Shakti, you can see where's the Shiva, where's the Shakti. But I like to challenge this, because it's easy to think that yes, healthy dominance, Shiva, because it's all the electric power, the solar, the projection. But if you look at powerful surrender, kind of like the Shakti energy, receiving, magnetic, vacuum. However, especially if you think, it's easier to think in terms of actual like physical intimacy, there is a point where healthy dominance can be represented by the woman, and powerful surrender being represented by a man. And that goes again back to the idea of trust and safety, because you can only let go of control if you feel trust, if you feel safe. And the whole idea of letting go is central to physical intimacy. And then again, it's, can I let go knowing that and abandon, knowing that when I'm back, my partner still receives me. My partner is there for me, and hence the duality of physical intimacy, because on one hand, it's fusion, but also there is something very selfish about it. And when you go to the final climax, you can't really be, you're in a union, but you're also very selfish because you're abandoning to your own pleasure. Any comments?
Where does this idea come from, the healthy dominance and powerful surrender? Is that your idea, or is that from
I believe healthy dominance and powerful surrender coming from works of Esther Perel. Yes. And some of the ideas I presented are inspired by her work.
It's also something you see very prominently in the BDSM community.
Yes.
It's predicated on the idea that the sub is in full control at all times, and then the dom, despite having the appearance of dominance literally, but control is a function of the sub's nature. And it's in that community where communication is the paramount. That trust is the connector to all activities. And it's interesting, society judge that as a deviant, obviously, but they're far more better connected and capable of communication at the most intimate and trusted level compared to more traditional monogamous relationships where none of these conversations ever happen. Mm-hmm. But yet this dynamic exists naturally.
Mm-hmm. And also, even in terms of touch, there is the idea of being touched, and then there is the idea of allowing to be touched. And in allowing to be touched, there is a lot of both dominance and surrender. You're surrender, but you're also allowing somebody to touch. And somebody touching you, also they're touching you, they may be touching you for your own pleasure. So you're allowing them to touch you for their own pleasure. So there's definitely some power dynamic there. And also to your point of BDSM community, even in studies of women's fantasies, the fantasy of being in a submissive part most times comes in women who are very in control of everything in their other parts of life. So they just want to let go. They just want to not be in control in this particular part of their life.
They want to be dominated.
Yeah, but also they allow that, right?
They don't want to have control. They don't want to be the person making the decision. So they're using their power of allowance to give up the function of decision making. So they maintain control, but they give the ability to make the decision as to what to do to someone else, but they're still in control. So that it's almost an oxymoron in a sense.
So, but I think this whole dynamic is exactly the challenge of duality, right? Because we are so used to thinking strong, weak, dominant, submissive, man, woman, where in fact it's much more subtle.
It's about the whole, because we all contain these pieces of us.
Yes.
That allow for both those. They exist eternally, but very few of us have the capacity to acknowledge the surrender part, the submissive aspect. But we all hold some aspect of it.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and then we look at yin and yang. There is never yin without yang, yang without yin. And we think it's like two pictures. No, it's actually.
But it's yes.
Woven one into
It's
each
a fluid
other.
dynamic.
One other concept that I found really powerful in the study of Tantra was the idea of worshipping lingam and worshipping yoni, to the very extreme that in some countries there are statues of lingam and yoni to be worshipped. But I was thinking that the whole, like, when you think about the word worship, immediately there comes the association of inferiority, like you're inferior and you're worshipping something that is superior. But why what I found fascinating in Tantra is that it's not about, there is no this notion of inferiority and superiority, where in fact, because it's the Shiva and Shakti, so it's two divinities. So when you think about one divinity worshipping another divinity, it's a whole revolution in terms of how you relate to each other. And my favorite, I quote it all the time, it's my favorite closing of any yoga practice is, the divine light in me honors and recognizes and honors divine light in you. And I think this can be extrapolated to the idea of worshipping lingam and yoni, because it's not only, it takes that primal desire that we talked about and marries it with the higher consciousness that, yes, that we are cosmic beings that are on this earth in this body, and because we live this life through our body, we're connecting, we're communicating through our bodies. And I think it's really beautiful. I love it. And this brings us to the transcendental nature of sexual experience, and I'm sure everyone can relate that even without big preparation for the Maithuna ritual, there are moments, or like there are experiences that feel transcendental when you're really present, when you're really in the moment. And it's just so rare. I think that Tantra is trying to tap into this experience of expanding consciousness through this experience. But in terms of transcendence, it stems from this idea that what we talked about, I feel safe with you enough to completely surrender to the process, and I feel safe with you enough to completely get abandoned in my own pleasure for some time. But when you think about like the climax itself, you can't really think about anything, like there's nothing, and you can't really be connected to who you are in the how do I say it, in your limited form as a human, because like it goes beyond. So I think this is really beautiful, and I think this opens a lot of doors to exploration and how we can integrate it in our life. I think like the awareness of this and the intention of intimacy, and the intention of intimacy and this consciousness, this divine consciousness, and seeing the other as a divine being, really renegotiates and reinvigorates the present state of relationships that we are in. And this brings me to the closing part, which is expansion through liberation and liberation through expansion. And as we can see, well, from our discussion, pleasure invites a degree of separateness. So you have to be selfish to be erotically connected. However, you're also together. And the swing between togetherness and autonomy, it's healthy if we are whole. Because if we are fragmented, if we are trying to make up for our fragments with another person, then any moving away or too much fusion becomes threat to our wholeness. So if we find our center and balance the Shiva Shakti, if we find the wholeness within ourselves, then we can be present as a whole being in the relationship, and then relationship stops being a platform for fixing our supposedly problems, and becomes the platform of expanding and achieving higher consciousness. And the whole idea of spiritual growth and self-development and psychology is achieving the idea that I'm okay. Well, it goes back to transactional analysis. I'm okay, you're okay, and the world is okay. And if you think about yourself in any situation, when you're acting out, when you feel like you can't handle the situation, it starts with the idea that I'm not okay. But if you bring back the idea of I'm okay, and to me the idea I'm okay is the idea I'm whole, then you act completely different. And
Can I pick up on that?
Yes.
There's a lot there, and I like what you say, a different platform.
Yes.
And that is really the basis of the work that I'm doing, and in this ongoing study research group. For many years, well over a decade, I've had a vision of a different, what I call fellowship platform, where people can come together in a conscious, consensual, co-creative, communicative community that wants to have a different fellowship platform to work with each other tantrically. Recognizing that, I'm not necessarily whole to begin with, but by working with a partner tantrically, I can increase my wholeness. Because it does mean it's going to call forth the polarity of Shiva and Shakti in me, as I call it forth those poles in the other person. And so we are going to move towards greater wholeness by working on a different fellowship platform. So I'm thinking there should be a dating app that has that as the platform, that you're looking to meet someone to work with tantrically,
Mm-hmm.
and you understand the first principles of Tantra, and the intention of people on this dating app is to work tantrically so they can expand themselves into wholeness.
There are no platforms yet with this? Tantra?
Tantra meetup. We're having a startup here.
I almost guarantee you there's one.
Well,
I'm
there's
sure
room for more.
But apparently we don't know about it, so we can't be doing that well.
Right.
Yeah, there's definitely.
Yeah, we don't know.
Maybe we need to go digital here.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say is like this whole thing of genitalia worship.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something we see in the Abrahamic religions of Islam, Judaism, Christianity.
Well,
There is no
in
feminine worship there.
in some religions, the intercourse happens through the sheet with a hole. So, what do you expect?
Yeah. So this is what I love about Tantra. Is it's following the desire. Right? They talk about follow the money. Let's follow the desire. So much of the desire that we possess is really, you could call it genitalia hunger. There's a hunger to connect our genitalia with other people's genitalia. And in Tantra, that's brought out. On the piano, I have a lingam, a Shiva lingam, which represents the male penis, and I have a lotus that represents the female yoni, and it's part of their spirituality to acknowledge the cosmic dimension of the genitalia, and that it's a bona fide desire. Desire means of the stars. The word desire literally means of the stars, and if we follow the desire and our genitalia hunger, it actually will lead back to a cosmic connection. We have to bring this out in our perception, a way of thinking. It's killing our evolution, the fact that we're not. And the genitalia is treated as something dirty,
Shameful.
bad, shameful,
Yeah.
private. No, it's the source of life. It has to be spiritualized in our way of looking at it.
Well, it's just so interesting how traditional religions kind of like try to really put so much shame on something, on a part of human, but we were, even if we follow the religious idea, we were created by God. You can even say in the image of God, in likelihood of God. So how come we are created in the likelihood of God, but we have a part of ourselves that is shameful, and like we try to pretend that it's not there? So yes, to what you were saying, it's really
pretend it's not there for a while. But it's not gonna work for a while.
it's really embracing the divine origin.
Yeah. No, it's really, to me, Tantra is really the path for future evolution, and that more and more people are going to have to understand it, because it helps us to understand ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah, desire's error is the united force, the driving force of evolution.
Desire is the driver.
Well, I mean, if it weren't for desire, we wouldn't all be here.
Thank you, Dasha Barefoot.
Yay!
Yeah, very illuminating. I'm very excited. I'm even more committed to Tantra Talks, the dissemination of this knowledge. Literally, it is penetrating into one another spiritually with seed ideas.
Cross-pollinating.
Cross-pollinating. Yes. No, I'm convinced this is really important for future evolution. Not future, like present evolution, like right now. We're kind of in an SOS situation in terms of, let's call it a mental health crisis, but it's really a spiritual crisis that we're in. And what are the answers? I don't think that modern Western science necessarily has the answers that humans need to step up in our evolutionary nature. It's actually very dangerous how dominant the scientific paradigm is in our present culture, with a very materialistic viewpoint that is disseminated in our schools and institutions of higher education. So here we are, a small group here tonight, holding the flame of truth. I mean, in Jewel and the Lotus, the right-hand path is the solo path.
Oh, is that
Solo, single, celibate.
That's not
That you're not engaging with a partner, and that's bona fide too. That's what I'm practicing right now. I'm not in a partnership, and matter of fact, I'm embracing it even more. The idea of this as a really, focused path to make a conscious decision to not be engaging with someone else's energies as leverage to my growth, to my activation, even to my sexual activation. But so that's the instead of being a tantrika, you're a dakshini, is a right hand practitioner, whereas the left hand is to be working with a partner, so you gain leverage out of their energy and you have a circuitry with them. And that takes a lot of work too. Matter of fact, I'm kind of not wanting to take on that work. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all needing to practice the right-hand path, right?
It's a different goal.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that the partner completes you and makes you whole. The partner in Tantra is actually calling forth more of you,
yeah.
so that you can unpack more of yourself, the seed of your wholeness can unpack more.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
1 plus 1 becomes more than 2. More than 1.
Well, there's that too, that, like something is born out of the middle of the two-ness. But ultimately, doing the right-hand path as a single soul celibate person, I'm also working on the two-ness within me. That I have those Shiva and Shakti energies. I have the above, I have the below, I have the left, I have the right, I have the front, the back, I have the inner, the outer. I have all those already within me. When I work with a partner, they just help to kind of poke those parts to wake them up. But right now I'm choosing to actually be more hermetically sealed, making a conscious decision to not be influenced by other people's energies and awaken the Shiva and Shakti within myself. So, and specifically, I'm working with the lower chakras, the ones below my body, the pre-personal chakras, which are more aligned with the Shakti energies. I'm awakening those so I can find my own Shakti more, rather than finding a woman who could be my Shakti to awaken. And that's a really interesting path. It takes discipline, it takes will, it takes a lot of focus, it takes kind of pulling back from my outer senses and really turning on my chakras. And I'll present more research on that in the days ahead, and of course that'll go into the book as well. Because ultimately that's the path, is to turn on your own Shakti, turn on your own Shiva, turn on all of your all-inclusive chakras. Yeah, I'm trying to understand it and model it, because in today's climate, it's like, what? You choose to be celibate? Like, what? You're not looking for a partner? You're not on a dating app? You're like, you don't want sex? But I usually go against the grain anyways in cultural trends.